Welcome back. This is the Revolution Parts Panel. We have an A team with us today from retail. We're very humbled to have James Holloway from Swickard Automotive with us here today, representing on the panel. Also, Kevin Dunmire with the Tom Wood Automotive Organization in Indiana, both highly respected retailers, and our colleague Mike King from Revolution Parts, the e-commerce specialist himself. Gentlemen, welcome back to the panel.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
All right, a lot happening, first of all, in this space, a lot happening in our industry overall. I can't think of a more exciting time, Kevin, to be in automotive than where we are right now. I know all of us have seen a lot of things come and go. Kevin, if I can, I want to start the conversation off with you. What role do you think the customer experience in fixed ops, service and parts has on the dealership as a whole?
Oh goodness, that's a huge answer. We don't have enough time. It's a large opportunity, right? As we know that fixed ops in general, we retain a much greater part of the growth, right, of the profit, and developing those relationships. I think for too long, parts guys especially, we were always kind of in the hole back there, and I think we've kind of started revolutionizing that space and. We've got some huge attitudes, huge brains, social influencers. I mean, it's been a huge evolution over the last really 5 or 10 years. And I think really a lot of parts departments have become a lot more front and center. Obviously in my position here today, 20 years ago, you didn't hear of a group parts director, right? But we're different people. It's a different business. And I think the importance is growing and becoming more obvious, more so than ever before.
James, you and I were speaking in the green room prior to getting started today, and the environment has certainly shifted from the sales side to fixed. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, big picture, I'm going to say it is no longer a seller's market. We have transitioned over to a buyer's market on the front end. Like I said, the fish are no longer jumping into the boat. That puts a lot of pressure and downward pressure on the back end to produce and contribute. Parts is no different. And in terms of revenue streams that come through the parts department, you have a lot to choose from. You have customer pay, you have warranty, internal, wholesale, which is your local market. And I think probably one of the biggest untapped sources of revenue is going to be e-commerce, because the best thing about e-commerce is you're no longer held captive by your local market.
And we haven't been able to say that before. And it's opened up a whole new avenue. Mike, you and I have met with a lot of retailers in recent months. Mike, your thought about it?
Well, I mean, fixed ops, fixed coverage, it's so important now. And so having a smooth running parts operation, fixed operation means revenue. To James's point, the fish aren't jumping in the boat. That's a perfect analogy. I mean, we have to make our sales, our front end, as competitive as possible, which means we have to pay the bills. And finding the different ways to pay those bills includes e-commerce, which up until 10 years ago, nobody even gave it a second thought. Now it's such a big part of a well-run parts organization that it plays a huge role in doing exactly that, paying the bills for the dealership.
Kevin, you run that parts operation for a very, very big dealer group. Who would have thought we'd be talking about customer experience, right? In fixed operations, because I don't remember that conversation, Kevin, 5, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit different for me. I came up through Lexus. So we've been talking about a customer experience for a very, very long time. But again, trying to kind of spread that through the group. What does that look like online? Because one thing that we really lack is with online, and especially today, with the confusion of AI and what that's going to give or take away from the experience, the big challenge now is humanizing the online experience. And I think that could be a really great a great add, a value add, a part of the customer experience for online. I think that's one of the best opportunities, but also could be one of the biggest shortfalls of a lot of e-com dealers.
I agree. Kevin, it seems maybe 25 years ago, dealers front end went online, okay, with 24/7 websites where people could shop on weekends, at night, holidays, days off, it doesn't matter. And Kevin, now it's worked its way into fixed operations, specifically into parts.
Yeah, 100%. And it's crazy because, you think about the Amazons out there that started out of a garage, and that's how we do business now, right? People expect us to be online 24/7, ready to go. And your guys can't work 24/7 necessarily, but we've got to be prepared. How do we serve them at midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning? Maybe AI does play a role, but at the same time, we've got to start looking at where's the pain points and how do we avoid them or heal that wound if it's actually happened.
James, I think of the front end parts counter, okay? And I remember years ago when I was working retail, what a busy hub that was, that front end. People would come in the front door. And James, that's changing, okay? Obviously, that's gravitating now and working its way all online in some way, fashion, or another. James, how can the parts department offer a customer first experience, both online and offline?
Well, look at the big picture here. Tesla threw the automotive industry on its heels. Amazon did the same thing with retail. And the way that customers are purchasing items has changed, right? So in the parts department, I truly believe there has to be some core competencies in place, right? There's some kind of a belief that if I invest in a website, people are magically going to show up and start buying parts. It doesn't work that way. We have to educate our dealers and our parts departments about, search engine optimization, paid marketing. That is a skill set that they're not really familiar with, right? But it's a necessary skill set. But going back to the customer experience, we have a lot of work to do, put it that way.
All right.
What are you trying to say, James?
Well, let me rephrase it, okay? And I said it to Mike: if they don't buy the part from me, they're going to buy it somewhere else, right? I mean, there's a lot of places online where I can buy parts, and the thing that's going to differentiate me from somebody else, or somebody, God forbid, selling parts out of their garage, or counterfeit parts or things like that, we have to make sure that the customer has a safe payment gateway. We have to make sure that we're servicing the customer with timely communication. Mm-hmm. We have to reassure them of, hey, when am I going to get the part? And by the way, speaking of parts, if you were to look at the segments of parts that we sell, this isn't really going to be more anything on the collision side that we're going to be selling. It's more on the mechanical side, right? And I can tell you from experience, in any of our markets, there are at least 3 to 4 times as many mechanical shops as there are to that one collision shop. Yep. So, a lot of these cars, and let's talk about the average age of cars on the road. Average age is right around 12.6 years old. Cars are built to last, right? Right now, there are a certain segment of customers that cannot afford to buy a new car, which means they're going to invest into their daily driver to keep old Betsy on the road for another 5 years or however long it needs to go, right? That's where this important segment comes in, because there are do-it-yourselfers out there, and if they're not doing it themselves, they have somebody that can do it for them, right? And so it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And Kevin, can I real briefly follow up with you on some of the things that James said? I believe that the customer today, in this day and age, now expects that secure payment gateway, all the things that James is talking about, and that's now part of or should be part of a customer first experience.
Yeah, 100%. And man, I tell you what, I want to circle back. You talk about payment gateway, but I think it all starts at trust. And I go back to the humanization of the experience, because if you can earn their trust, they won't question you a lot of other things. And whenever they need help, they'll go to you. They won't go to somebody else, right? And so, case in point, if you were to go to our website, it may not say our Tom Wood group, right? But it has a caricature of the guy that runs our site. And so it's like, we know what Nick looks like. And so they know they can contact Nick. But the thing is, he's not just some cartoon. When they call, they get that guy, right? And so you have to have that branding, that personalization, whatever we want to call it. And then whenever they have a problem, they're reaching out to Nick and they know that Nick can handle the problem. So a lot of these issues, like if there is a payment gateway hiccup or name the problem, they immediately know they can go to Nick, they can get the solution, or he will at least go to bat on their behalf. And a lot of these problems, they don't assume you're the problem. They just assume there is a problem, but Nick's going to help them out.
Mike, I think that's so true. You know, what Kevin mentioned is in terms of trust is the common thread in all relationships, not just business, but personal. You can't have anything without trust. And I think it really begins there, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, when you're building out a successful e-com store, to touch on Kevin's point, the personalization has to be there. It has to be a customer focused approach to selling parts, which means great people skills, great customer communication. Some of the best people that ever worked for me in this business were not parts people. They were people with great customer skills, and then we taught them hot parts. And that was a super successful recipe for gaining the trust of people, because now they know that they're talking to a real person. They're talking to a person with empathy. They're talking to a person who can get things done. And now that becomes the recipe for success, because once you build that connection, they're not going shopping anymore. They're coming directly back to your store and buying over and over again. And they become 10, 15-year customers. You know, they'll be there forever. And it's just like when you know, back in the day, dad would bring their son or daughter who just came of age and was ready for their first car. They brought them to meet their favorite salesman at the front of the house. This is the same thing. You know, dad tells the son who just got his first truck, needs some parts, this is where you go to buy your parts. This is who you ask for. This is what's going to happen. Those are the connections that we build that will make us successful in the long run.
And James, to follow up on your comment you made earlier, you don't just open up a website and people come to it and hope that it's successful. I think part of the recipe, if you will, for e-commerce is being able to utilize some of the big platforms out there, like Amazon. We've mentioned now a couple times on this call today, and eBay. James, your thoughts on that?
It's funny you should mention that. You know, way back before any of this was going on, I was dabbling into the eBay world myself, doing other stuff, and that's how I learned the power of reach and the power of impact, selling and shipping things all over the place. But for just a second now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the manufacturers, okay, the OEMs. And if you think about it, the manufacturers, they really only have two ways to make money. Number one is wholesaling vehicles to their network of dealers. Mm-hmm. Number two is, guess what? Selling parts, right? So there's a huge push and a focus and an emphasis right now from all of our OEM partners on that, on the customer pay parts purchase side. And and like I said, the push is coming down from the manufacturers, and we have customers out there that need the parts. And really, the e-commerce platform, I said it before, it's a great opportunity to ship that part and get it out and get the money. So.
And Kevin, parts has never been the most glamorous part of the dealership. It's been looked on otherwise, but now I see, especially in the last 2, 3, 4 years, there's a new realization of what we have in parts and how important that is. And as I've heard somebody on this panel say once before, you can't sell those hours without the parts, Kevin.
That's 100%. And I was laughing earlier because I thought James was reading my notes that I have up over here for this meeting, because he's 100% right. And that's one thing that I love about this e-commerce thing, is that if the OEM doesn't have a solid setup of their own to kind of do e-com, they are 100% behind any effort that you have to get online, because just like James said, they want to sell parts and cars. That's it. And it's amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's just amazing to me, all the different angles that I've been chasing for the last 30 years of my career, and they're becoming more prevalent. They're becoming more talked about. And so now, instead of chasing, 100%, 100% coverage for just fixed ops, we're doing it for the entire store, and parts is contributing more and more and more. And we have the most opportunity. I feel like, to your point, before we were hiring parts guys. Now we can pretty much take, as long as they're the right person, we can teach them how to do anything. And if you can hire them out of the hospitality industry, you've got it figured out. That you just got to teach them just the e-com side of it. You've got the expertise from maybe some other guys. You build an amazing team, and all of a sudden you've got profit coming out of your ears. You don't know, and you can't keep up. There's so many orders coming through. You can't keep up. It's just amazing to see the pivot over the last 5 or 10 years and how much more attention us parts guys are getting. And I kind of like that.
And well deserved. Mike, I know you're seeing this close up, Mike, because you work with a lot of thousands of retailers, across the country. What are you seeing on the parts side?
Well, I mean, to Kevin's point, the parts departments are becoming more in the limelight as e-retail becomes more accepted. More and more dealers are adopting it. The manufacturers are 100% behind us. Not only because, I mean, they love to sell parts, to James's point, they love to sell parts and cars. But if you've sold a customer a particular brand and they can find a convenient way to service that car outside of the dealer network, obtain the parts they need, they're probably going to stay loyal to that brand. So the manufacturers do really kind of rely on us as a network of e-retailers to service their customers properly so that they will buy again. And Kevin made me laugh, when it comes to the right people for this job. And I said it before, and I'll probably say it 100 times again. You don't really need a parts person. You need a people person, great skills. And, one of my very favorite and most successful employees in this business came to me as a receptionist from a country club. She had no clue what a wheel bearing was, but she had exceptional people skills. And at the end of the day, 3-4 years later, she was our number one selling customer representative. She was doing $2 to $3 million a year in sales all by herself. So, the right person makes it all work.
James, I know that you oversee many dealerships as part of the Swickard organization. How would you say the parts department's growth influences the dealer or the dealer group's overall growth, moving now into the future?
It's more important now than ever. Like I said, and I'll just paint the picture for you. You have these cars in our market that they're covered by warranty. They're going to come back to the service department. They're covered under warranty. Parts and labor, the only exception there is going to be wear and tear. Mm-hmm. We've seen a migration away from the service department. The second or the day that car runs out of warranty, they go across the street. If they need tires, they're going to go to Discount Tire, Costco, whatever. And the older the car, the less likelihood there is of that car coming back, right? Mm-hmm. Now, and I'm sure Kevin will agree with me, if that car goes across the street, across town, or across the nation, I can still sell the part, right? I think we said it earlier in today's webinar about we can't sell labor without the part, but I'm pretty sure we can sell the part without the labor, right? Mm-hmm. And so in the parts department, we have the best of both worlds, right? I'm in the parts business, right? And I want to sell parts. And if you look at the units in operation, just in your own market, and these older segment 3 and 4 cars, that if that doesn't put it into perspective, I don't know what else will. So,
thank you, James. Kevin, your thoughts on the parts department's growth influencing the dealer's overall growth?
Well, and I think James is 100% right. And I think we are more, as parts guys, parts people, however you want to say it, we're more in control of our own destiny than we ever have been. We don't have to rely on somebody else for our marketing. We can go after, of course, we've always talked about anticipating the needs at the back counter. Oh, you need that gasket with that water pump or whatever. You can do that online as well, right? And that builds trust. You can, to a great customer, and they're repeat customer, send them some cookies or you can make it really custom to them, right? And then as far as, I don't think it's completely out of the realm to think more in your backyard as well. If you notice that you're shipping to somebody that's close to you, have a postcard made up to where it's like, hey, next time you bring your car in, we'll give you 20% off XYZ and have an expiration date. You can, again, you're personalizing it to their experience. And so even though you're e-com, you still have a 1 in 50 chance that it could be in your backyard or maybe even in a surrounding state. And you can pivot and maybe bring that customer in. So now you're not just selling parts, right? Maybe you're selling a car, right, not just service either. So it's a way for us. I feel like we're more in control of our destiny than we really ever have been.
Kevin, great points. And yeah, not just e-com, but you're also automotive dealers, okay? Some of the most resilient people on the face of the earth, and think ways through this that others may not. Kevin, what a way to tie it all together.
Yeah, that's what my job is, right? That's what we're supposed to do.
Mike, your thoughts on some of the best practices we're hearing?
Again, it goes. I can't help but echo Kevin's point. It goes to that customer experience, and growth comes from repeat business, and repeat business comes from great customer experience. At the end of the day, what we buy, where we buy it from, and the approximate price that we sell it for is pretty much the same. I mean, at a parts, if you bring it right down to a parts level, we're not special. I get the same water pump from the same warehouse, from the same manufacturer at the same price. So you can't give parts away online and stay in business, and you can't charge exorbitant prices and stay in business. But what you can do is offer that product for a great price with superior customer service. And then that's, again, is going to bring them back in, not only for parts, but to Kevin's point, if they are local, now you might bring them into the service drive because maybe it's a repair above their head, or it's time to replace that car, and now it's time for a visit to the sales office. So e-com is a customer business. It is people skills, customer service, and communication.
Gentlemen, last question for today. I'll make it a lightning round. I'd like to keep your answers to 1 minute or less. I'll go to Kevin first, and then James Holloway, and then Michael King to bring it home. Here we are, squarely in the fourth quarter, looking out over the balance of the year and into 2025. For your peers watching today, fellow dealers, fellow parts operations managers, people overseeing parts at their dealership, in specific to e-commerce, if you had to give some piece of advice to your peers watching today, what they should be looking out for, what they should be preparing for, you've got a minute or less. I'll go to Kevin again first, then James, and then Mike to bring it home. Kevin, if you would.
Not much to say here. In my opinion, if you're not online in some aspect, you're missing the boat. You're doing yourself a disservice. Your general manager, your owner is going to figure it out sooner or later, and it's better that you're ahead of the curve and have a good something good in the works. It can fix a lot of problems. It can bring in a lot of money. Get with the program. I guess that's all I'm going to say.
Love it. James Holloway.
If you ever talk to anybody who's won the lottery, the first thing they're going to tell you is you can't win if you don't play. I'm going to tell the dealers or anybody that's listening, you got to be in the game, right? You got to be online. Secondly, focus on your core competencies. If you don't have a set of established core competencies, well, then maybe we need to do some training. Focus on that. And then the last thing is it's not always about price. Mike said it earlier about service. Focus on providing value. focus on providing the customer or the consumer a benefit, right? And those two things, value and benefit, is what's going to get the key. The repeat customers coming back. And Michael, again, you said it correctly. Once you get that first customer in, they're going to buy from you over and over and over again. It's almost like, what would I rather be, the tailor selling the suit, or the dry cleaner who gets to clean it over and over and over again?
I love it.
Very good. Michael King, bring it home.
Man, for the last quarter and looking at 2025, you got to be in the game. You know, if you're not getting into e-retail, you're already late to the party. So let's get in and get working at it and start bringing those funds into your dealership to make your dealership more successful. Because the reality of it is, if you're not in e-retail, the chances are better than not that somebody that is in e-retail is selling parts to your neighbor. So you're missing those sales. So get in, start perfecting your skills, especially those people skills, and build out that e-com channel that's going to just add another revenue stream to the dealer profitability.
Great advice, gentlemen. We'll leave it there. I want to thank Michael King from Revolution Parts for being with us today. Kevin Dunmire from Tom Wood Automotive, thank you so much. Great advice. Thank you. James Holloway at Swickard Automotive. Great to see you again, and fantastic contributions to the panel. So
Thank you.
all of it. Loved all of it.
Thank you.
Everybody, this is the next generation of parts departments here today at the Revolution Parts version of the Fixed Ops Roundtable.